said the same thing. I want to ask you here on the stage tonight, do you make the same commitment that you will absolutely, sir, that you will absolutely accept the result of this election?
I will look at it at the time. I'm not looking at anything now. I'll look at it at the time. What I've seen is so bad. First of all, the media is so dishonest and so corrupt, and the pile-on is so amazing. The New York Times actually wrote an article about it that they don't even care. It's so dishonest, and they've poisoned the minds of the voters. But unfortunately for them, I think the voters are seeing through it. I think they're going to see through it. We'll find out on November 8th, but I think they're going to see through it.
But, sir, there's
if you look, excuse me, Chris, if you look at your voter rolls, you will see millions of people that are registered to vote. Millions. This isn't coming from me. This is coming from Pew Report and other places. Millions of people that are registered to vote that shouldn't be registered to vote. So let me just give you one other thing. So I talk about the corrupt media. I talk about the millions of people. Tell you one other thing. She shouldn't be allowed to run. She's guilty of a very, very serious crime.
What is that craft? What is that craft? Just what is that craft? What is showing its face? What is telling us it deserves exactly its shape and space? The space it's taking up, the space it will displace. What jagged edge is born and blistering, still awake? What is this? What is this? When I see this shape around the mystery font, it sometimes looks more like an iceberg. It sometimes looks more like an iceberg, but in any case, I call it Burgles. I call it Burgles, and I call it white fire. What is this shape? What is the falsehood? Who has dawned an age of permuting falsehood and hokum? Who has dawned an age where lying is smart? Who has dawned the falsehood? Who has dawned the falsehood? What is this shape? Who is here at the window? What do we need to confront and show to the edge of town? This is Kevin Roberts. This is Kevin Roberts. This is the day that the phone calls start telling Kevin Roberts that he should be afraid again of being a Nazi. You, Kevin Roberts, boy. You cheap, scathed, abused, hazed, tortured, cracker, You sad Nazi. No. 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 The answer is no. America is going to start to teach you because Mr. Rogers isn't here. Kevin. But if Bobbert's uncle your bunk will crumple. You will not threaten Americans with violence or else. You will not walk into our homes and take the children whose shape you don't like. You fucking thug! Fuck your Nazi crime! The answer is no. Be ashamed when you hear your name until you take possession of your fucking cancer. Your Ku Klux Klan cancer. Fuck your weak cancer. You are infected by the enemy of the human race, you fucking weakling. You weak coward. You weak fucking coward. The answer is no. The answer is no, but I'll give you a yes. The answer is yes. I hear your cry for help. I hear that you're afraid. Yes, I hear that you're afraid. And yes, I'll meet you in the street. And yes, I'll catch your blade with a 3 fucking foot thick sleeve of steel and swallow you in the glade that is safe and rock you until your brain is laid, not harmed, but calibrated. Your brain now calibrated. You recognize Superman doesn't punch to destroy. He catches and saves. You scared little tiny baby Kevin. The thing is, we have a chance to kill Hitler while he's a baby, because Hitler is a baby his whole fucking life. And the rest of us are adults enough to not love and be addicted to and have sexual fantasies about the knife, or know how to handle it so not to end others' life or your own. I hear your cry for help, that you cannot imagine a way out of the tempting idea that it's not you, the white problem, that are the entire problem. We don't look dissimilar. We really don't look all that different. You know? We don't really look all that different. But getting past the whole idea of are we dealing with somebody who looks like me or doesn't, and a visual or the way someone talks or their culture or their language? You know, at some point we need to deal with the fact that, like, there's just difference in the world. And but because this is all aligned around patriarchal terrorism, and this man, this way, it's backwards from how I say how it goes. This man right here, Kevin Roberts, is a patriarchal terrorist. And a Ku Klux Klan, he is a, what would the word be? Well, it's white supremacy, right? So it's essentially omni-hate with a slight blind spot and eye for perfect space for whiteness to be perfectly safe. Whiteness must be, of course, perfectly safe and unassailed. Stephen Miller would say it must not be questioned, will not be questioned. I need to let you know, Kevin, that it's really, really, there's so many shades here, but at the moment, I'm overtaken by how embarrassing for you that the level of your imagination or the grade of your heart or human character came up with a project and it was this. That the people you gather together are Nazis. That the American you dream, the American dream you have, the American dream you are dreaming, is taking that dream away from people. It's not a semantic game, and it's not a small issue. This is about life and death. And this man threatened every life in America, like pointing into the lens of a major event relevant to a presidential race and saying I could shoot someone in the street and not lose any voters. This cowardly, pathetic weakling, this sad traitor to America and traitor to the human family. He is so cuckolded by fear, so cuckolded by the Ku Klux Klan, the Ku Klux Klan does really cuckold. The whole bandwidth of Nazi white patriarchal terror, it's so deeply entrenched around shame of sexuality and shame that is impossible in such a way that it must be taken out on everything and everyone else. It is the Hitler particle. And we need to hear this as a cry for help. We are done with an era where, like, this isn't a game and you're in the end zone doing a display that takes 10 seconds longer than the sponsors have time for in their commercial break. You just tried to pre-Hitler all over the place. And the way that we as Americans communicate to you in such a way that you're blown 3 states away and feel the impact of what will happen if you don't apologize and get fucking therapy, Jeffrey Dahmer. If you don't realize what the impact will be if you continue to walk around the streets as if you don't have a massive mental breakdown to account for, as if you haven't been a sleeper cell against humanity, as if you didn't just fuck up. You just fucked up. As a human being, and for your organization, if it was ever going to do anything good, you just fucked up. You, Kevin, just shat in your own fucking bowl, boy. We expect your apology and your resignation. We expect you to learn. Start with diversity, equity, and inclusion. We expect you to learn. We expect you to not bother us ever again with this kind of speech. And if you walk into the street with knives poking from your chest saying, "Nobody get in the way of these," we will swallow you whole. Pathetic, cuckold baby. Little, sad Nazi. Sad, pathetic, incel Nazi. We hear your cry for help. We have mental health facilities available. But until you accept that there is one doorway back to humanity, and it comes through redemption that is earned, you don't have an audience. You are shunned. You are cancer. You are blister upon blister. Fuck off to therapy, you ridiculous embarrassment to humanity. You ridiculous mistake of a life. Fuck off. Fuck all of the way off. But what's really important is that you realize that your comfort and your human rights matter, and that they will end if you try to do what you just tried to do. You will meet an end that will be just and that will be American. You just allied yourself as an enemy of this country. You just allied yourself with someone who wants to make himself a king. That's not a revolution. That's a takeover. You stupid Nazi fuck. You ridiculous, sad liar. I've heard you talking about the craziness of the left, while what makes it into mainstream political debate in Congress, for instance, is in no way extreme for what the Democratic Party proposes. In fact, they've been soft as hell. And you extremist, white terrorist, patriarchal torturers. The answer is no. The heritage you are riding is the Ku Klux Klan and a burning cross, and fuck you. Fuck you. The answer is no to everything. No. You're not welcome. Your game isn't fun. Your cancer doesn't stink good. Fuck your cancer. These are the findings of the mystery font today. And it is important for there to be a virtue signal, such that the kind prehension of things even as ridiculous as Nazis become, the apprehension becomes easier. Because this kind of person will brutalize millions of people. If he doesn't already have a buffet of brains in his downstairs somewhere, he will. He will have a cellar of booksellers and teachers and nurses and trafficked human beings. He will have a cellar full of delicacies, alive and dead. He will have a macabre blood cellar. That's the spell, and this is the speller. We need to listen to people who dare to step into the shoes of Hitler, or they will be worse. We need to stop this right fucking now. He should be in shackles. He should be in jail. He should be in jail, and he should be receiving health care, because this is a mental health crisis. Kevin Roberts is not well. Kevin Roberts is not a safe human being. He should not be anywhere near power, and he should not have a national platform. This is an emergency, both for the life of Kevin Roberts, who just tried to commit suicide. And this suicide attempt by Kevin Roberts is truly ridiculous. No, I want to say, Kevin, no, it's just truly ridiculous, Kevin, because you just tried to kill yourself. Kevin Roberts must be going through an incredible mental health crisis, because Kevin Roberts just tried to commit suicide. And suicide by New Colossus. He just tried to kill himself by the hands of patriots. This is the same self-destructive nonsense that had Donald Trump try to end his own life in suicide by insurrection. What other possible reason could there be for someone to pretend to unmask as a full-fledged terroristic human rights crimes atrocity Nazi? Why would he unmask as a violent terrorist, a Jeffrey Dahmer with backing of a state Nazi? His family and people in his community should be alerted and alarmed, but also should be comforted that he is getting health care. But until that's clear, we should be very, 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 very scared for the safety of Kevin Roberts. Is he okay? Because this kind of behavior We need a wellness check on Kevin Roberts. We need a wellness check on Kevin Roberts. And a mind concerned with virtue considers this option. We need a wellness check on Kevin Roberts. We need a wellness check on Kevin Roberts. We need a wellness check stat on Kevin Roberts. That is for sure for real. We can't abandon people, especially when they show us such a sign that they need help. This is somebody in crisis. And rather than assuming that he means to be a hooligan, rather than saying, look at the way he's wearing his pants and look at the way he's tied his tie, he's clearly a thug. Listen to this sentence. Obviously, we're going to take this seriously. This is a death threat. This ridiculous and emotionally and spiritually ugly person. Like, until you wrestle this cancer out of you, you are going to be a monster. This is monstrous. It's not funny, it's not smart, it's not tactical in a way that is positive or defendable. And it will do more damage than the good it can bring you. But by such a measure that you will never, ever see its massive splendor. And we're not going to abandon you. We're not going to abandon you. We're not going to come and take you by the neck and grind you into a paste. Because that is meeting your proposition face to face. To meet it with your energy, you would already be dead. To meet the energy of the statement of Kevin Roberts, he would already be digested. To meet the energy of this statement of Kevin Roberts of the Heritage Foundation and Project 2025, saying that we are in the process of a second American Revolution, which will be bloodless if the left allows it to be. That was a statement, that was an act of war. That was a terroristic threat, and we are not at war. And yet another MAGA fuck is talking out of their neck to woo people into a sense that every day is 1776 and they should be in panic mode, rather than in a mode of finding ways to figure these things out and come together. If we are so panicked that Marjorie Taylor Greene and this ridiculous fuck convinces us reproach is censorship, we're done. This Nazi fuck and others like him terrorize us that reproach is censorship. That political conscience should instead be called political correctness. And don't correct me. Who's the snowflake, kid? Your poison wool is only poison and a delivery method after all. But we have left you alive. Why? Because we're not the knives. You have just threatened the new Colossus and kind humanity here to build the future of America. And you just tried to put it in shackles. you ridiculous, sad Nazi. You're trying to break the dream. And one wonders then if you ever believed in it. If a little bit of pushback, once a police state and slave patrol culture becomes apparent, if a little bit of boundaries, like we say, excuse me, Mr. Musk, those are really anti-Semitic posts and you have plenty of Nazis on your platform. We don't want to advertise with you. And he juts his neck out like a turtle who has a machine gun in his neck and says that basic boundaries that indeed are about reproach are emotional blackmail. No, Elon. And no, this ridiculous postulate that it is in the choice of the attacked to decide whether or not to choose peace. This is essentially the next level of the fractal of a Ku Klux Klan judge in Wisconsin exonerating Kyle Rittenhouse for 2 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder. Kyle Rittenhouse is a murderer, and he murdered 2 people and tried to murder a 3rd. And that's what this person is trying to do right now. He's running out into the street and saying, I'm Superman, don't be afraid of my laser gun. Oops, did I get your leg? Sorry, you didn't need that. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. I come in peace unless you don't allow it to be. This is fucking fascism. No one asks for immunity to do evil unless they want to do evil. No one tells you, don't stop the swing of my arm through your household, I know who to kill, unless they have figured out who to kill and they're a killer. Fuck this and fuck submitting. That's what we're looking at. With all of these pronouncements telling us they're going to come and grab us by the pussy, it is forcing coercion, forcing us to give up, forcing us to say there's nothing we can do, as opposed to saying, how do we put a barrier that this meteor is going to be obliterated by in its way? How do we focus a laser on this? How did they get rid of that? How did NASA hit that meteor that they did a test on? How is that done? Because this meteor is not as meaty as he thinks he is, but he is a fucking kamikaze. This is a suicide mission. This is a suicide bomber, a suicide boomer. Fuck these brown shirt suicide boomers. No is the answer. No to suicide boomers telling us they think they're tough shit and everything will be fine as long as we don't say no. This sounds like the way that he proposes for marriage and imagines that men should be proposing for marriage as well. This will be a bloodless courtship if you allow it to be. This will be a violence-free marriage if you allow it to be. This pregnancy won't come with any moments of terrorism meant to harm your immune system and the babies if you want it to be. This will be a nation where you can pursue happiness if you allow it to be. Kevin Roberts is a terrorist. You don't talk like this for any other reason the reasoning that he uses is poppycock. There's nothing except the lies of white supremacy. There's nothing except patriarchal terrorist lies. And he's just trying to cover the checks that come in from whatever pool he has into the math of enslavement and why he doesn't want us to change it. He is a new generation of the slave masters profiting from the math made by enslavement and generations of that money multiplying and continuing to buttress slaveholders who say it doesn't exist, and slaveholders who say, you won't be my slave at all. It'll just be like you're my employee if you allow it to be. And then he'll say that he's one of the good ones. He was such a nice slave master. He didn't hurt us at all. He said, hey, you know, I won't chop off your other leg if you. We are looking at harm. Just because someone gets a big job doesn't change who they are. This is a criminal. That's how a criminal talks. That's what a criminal does. You don't go around and threaten people with bigoted terrorist violence. You don't go around threatening people with crushing them and families. That's what this is. You don't bury a threat for concentration camps in 900 some pages if you're actually saying it with your chest. There is a weird fuzzy foam around a simple spear that could simply be held in front of a camera if you had that courage or knew that what you are doing were in any way justified. It's hiding behind all this gauze. It's hiding behind 900 pages and hiding behind even CNN anchors who seem to be getting copy that is giving your talking points in describing the threat. That the story is, it's disturbing, but then give your policy points as much as they give a flake or two of the actual human rights atrocities that you, Kevin Roberts, and Stephen Miller, and Charlie Kirk are threatening. This is the mystery font. And Darvo. 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 Oh, hey everyone, it's Darvo is here. It's the Darvo card showed up. Are you here to make sure that I'm not losing track? You know, Scoop Troop, let's just take a moment to say thank you to the Darvo card for showing up. Because once in a while, when I'm even just, you know, postulating and ideating out loud about what I would want to say, or indeed sending a message to someone like this Nazi self-made monster, I want to make sure that I'm aware of the power of what he's put into the world is, or what's coming back in the moment. If I were talking to him face to face, rather than looking at a photograph and talking into his soul, through this device, I'd be more privy to information and continuing attacks and assaults and pressure from him. And I'd want to be aware that within kind prehension, I'd want to be aware that Darvo is probably at play. In fact, it's really the only tool, or the main tool, often, that someone might utilize that would guide virtually everything they say. What is that? What is that, Darvo? What is that? Well, the D is deny. The A is deny, attack. That's right, attack. Reverse, victim, offender. Deny and attack to reverse the victim and offender. A dark triad predator, such as this white terrorist who has found power and influence, will use. You will see Darvo in response and in statement. A leverage against reality, a leverage against a power or idea or held trust that they want to demolish. Whether they see something that they think should be theirs and deny that existence and speak as if they already own it, or whether they are held to account and deny that account and attack the person portraying it, working to denigrate and disable and dismantle that person's credibility. They'll work even to totally flip the situation, reversing the victim and offender. Donald Trump being charged or told that he's dishonest will say, in fact, it's the press that is dishonest. And this kind of a full 180 reversal is the ERVO of Darvo. Deny, attack, to reverse victim and offender. That's right, Scoop Troop. It's the Darvo card. Keep it handy, and when you need to slap it up on the screen or slap it up in front of the view in your cockpit, so to speak, the visor readout. Pull it up in the readout when you are approached by someone who is adorned of the falsehood. A thank you. It is the mystery font. Goodness gracious, Grea Ray thus. Good golly, this drippy little mic magnet. It's okay. It's okay. But you know it's not okay. White supremacy is not okay. Is that why they went for the OK symbol? To try to break back, to try to 180 that too? So often it's these harsh flips, breaking reality. We should remember that the fuck your feelings crowd gravitates to that out loud because they value feelings and also feel proud, also feel sad, and also feel now. Feel then and before and feel tomorrow. I hope, somehow. I hope that Kevin will feel tomorrow. But let's be really clear. Kevin, I hear your cry for help. But I want to be careful to let you know that we have boundaries, and we're not going to let you pull us into the whirlpool that's happening, but I hear that there are some really big feelings. So I need you to catch a bubble as we examine this a bit. So it's going to be okay, but we're not going to let you flail and struggle against a nothing to make trouble. There's not a reverse racism. There's not a boogeyman. Unless you mean you. Unless you mean the guy who comes out when you drink too much. Or the guy who comes out when M has power. Or the guy who comes out when Donald Trump believes no one is watching. You are in an abusive relationship, Kevin. And you're a victim too, but you are a predator. And this will end now. It's completely, totally unacceptable. And you will be physically stopped. I need you to understand that trying to attempt suicide in the way that you just did, I'm assuming, I haven't heard any word of your demise, so I'm assuming that this suicide attempt of yours has been unsuccessful. And I'm glad. No one needs to die for us to find stasis and peace. And I hope that this is a moment where you showing such an unforgivable bearing of laser white fire teeth, that to have done this and unmasked in this way is probably going to be, will probably destroy your family, or could change it for the better if you do everything that you can in this moment to reckon with what you've done along this entire pathway, because this is clearly decades in the making, if not lifelong. But you have been caught, red-hatted, and it's done. And we're here to help. Suicidal ideation is a really big deal, and the thing is, while I'm glad that you've let us know that you're having these kinds of panic thoughts, that you are now lashing out. Lashing out like this, with terrorism, or with such animosity to other human beings, such escalated dehumanization and erasure that you have worked on, and that you carry with you as a somewhat public and very private project. This sickness, I appreciate that you trusted there was some way to try to talk about this. And as a human being, I want to say that we're all special, and I think that I'm sure that you are special, certainly as a human being and in ways that I don't understand. But I want to show up by being honest that you have transgressed. You have transgressed. It's complete. You've transgressed society. You've stepped outside of society. It's a really big deal. And you don't just walk back in. You have stepped outside of decent society into the room where people have razor blades in their pockets at all times. You've stepped outside of society because you just rang the bell of it's okay for some people to be treated like they're garbage and animals. You just rang the dinner bell where you're served. Do you not know that? That's what a suicide attempt is. That's what a suicide by cop or a suicide by officer of the citizenry or a suicide by internet. That's what it is. That's what this is. I know you thought that this was going to be a big Ferris Bueller moment and we'd like put you up on our shoulders and it would be like really neat and you probably would get to see some really awesome violence, but like you wouldn't really be blamed for it and it's just going to be great. But we're not doing the John Hughes movie thing where, you know, somebody goes up on the top of the shoulders this way. We're not here for that. I'm afraid this whole thing that's been happening for the last 8 years is... Everyone? I think calls will probably start coming in, but let this Truman Show moment work for you. This is an intervention. And it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. But it's not going to be a white supremacist okay. You're going to get help. And you will apologize. But you're probably going to need to understand that you don't just get to waltz into the rooms where people who need to hear your apologies will hear them, because you've legitimately terrified millions of people for their lives. And that's what you tried to do. I'm really sorry that you feel this way in life. I'm sorry that your cognitive ability, in combination with the degraded nature of your heart or spirit or imagination, that this was what you came up with, that this is what you're fighting for, that you can't look the most obvious, massive lies in the face and are fighting for the course of evil to do worse. I can see how if you felt that way, I can see where suicidal thinking would come in, you know? And I mean, it's very elegant, and I'm sure you thought it would be a blaze of glory. You know, maybe we'd spin it into a sequel for Sound of Freedom or something like that, but that's not where we're going. And as far as I can see, Sound of Freedom sucked, and was definitely a betrayal of the cause of ending trafficking. And ending exploitation and ending trafficking is so important. Again, maybe you're aware of that's why it's so important that your Nazi project is stopped. The perversion of Christ's message that you are trying to force down people's throats bloodlessly, if we allow it to be, it's not just like Christ with mint or Christ with cumin and lime. This is Christ with the bone and marrow and fiber of our sisters and brothers and human family. We're talking about the Nazis. We're talking about Christian nationalism. And Hitler and the Nazis did the same thing. They also talked about being guided by God and being a Christian movement. But Christ would be put in jail. Not only would Christ probably not make it across the border, and Christ would be more likely to come from elsewhere than to be born here if there were a second coming. Christ would probably, were they to come to America, they would probably come through the border. And they would likely not make it. But if they made it here as a child or as an adult, or even if they were born here, they don't, as far as I know, Jesus Christ of Nazareth wasn't given like a special ID card or like a spaceship from the planet Crystron, so that it was like, oh, hey Joseph, my real dad's God? Wow, that's awesome. Do I get to talk to him? Well, he might sometimes. Wow, this is awesome. I'm going to make a story someday based on this. But this isn't what happened. This isn't what it was, right? If we're looking at a Christian nationalist, it's pure opposite. If we're looking at what a country informed by Christianity would do, it would be something like Heber Humphrey. It would be something like Jimmy Carter, who not only value the separation of church and state and realize that most of the minds who created our founding documents were very staunchly in favor of separating and keeping separate church and state, because that protects the integrity of state and it protects the integrity of religion. And we don't want religion corrupted. And we don't want religion somehow bent and co-opted in ways that we can't even recognize when it's being used for wrong. We don't want to mix things where they don't belong. We bring our values, but we're seeing Christofascism. It's not Christianity. It's a Nazi perversion of it. It doesn't mean that those people don't get to like Christ, but there's been, if somebody tackled you down into a hole and trained you for 15 years, that if they told you that Bill Cosby was creating supplements, you'd be sad to learn there was a different truth. You don't want to take his supplements. The falsehood can be indoctrinated into people. Indoctrination is not being exposed to a wide array of things. Indoctrination is being kept to a small little blindered bandwidth and being kept from the ability to ingest other things that aren't like yours. Even if you're going to live the rest of your life in the little town where you make eel wallets and it's beautiful and you love that corner of the world, there's nothing wrong with being worldly. And if you want that to be your patch, however small or vast or however densely populated, whatever you want your life to be, great. And I suppose if you want to be alone and you're not trying to harm anyone, you know, it's sad, but it's your sadness if you want to be alone and hate. But intolerance, we are not going to tolerate. The new paradigm has space for being on the pathway and doing the work, an honest discussion about gaps in distance, about lack of understanding, or those things happen when people actually want to talk and have a safe spectrum of reproach. Like, I know that I can say things I might be even afraid to say or might be difficult to talk about because there's a bed of which, like, we're all fostering. This terroristic, I mean, it's terrorism. It's not terroristic. I think that the terminology would be a terroristic threat, or I suppose a terrorist threat. Well, let's see, a terrorist threat is really, that would be potentially a group, or it could be an event, but I think terroristic threat means a particular gesture or statement. But that construction of language makes it sound like terrorist-ish, as opposed to that we're dealing with the actual matter at hand. Because we are. This was an act of terrorism. The two tactics of terrorism are intimidation and violence. And this was a clear promise of violence unless there's acquiescence. This, when you say there's going to be a revolution, but you clarify that indeed we are talking about bloody revolution. So just get out of the fucking way, I know that's gonna happen to you, okay? Is kind of the statement. It's absolutely fucking absurd. It's brown shirting. It's Nazi, violent gang, intimidation. It's we're bigger and we'll beat the shit out of you. It's brown shirting. These are Nazi brown shirts. And yes, we do want to do all we can to try to open up a space of listening and, you know, a space of understanding of, okay, I hear you. I hear you saying really huge, scary thing. I want to honor that you said it out loud, and as much as it comes across as an attack, I'm going to honor that it definitely sounds like a cry for help, and I'm just going to take it as that to give you a chance to come back to the human race. Ever. You don't talk to people like this. It won't happen again. You don't talk to people like this, or they will hurt you, because it's a threat. And because when people threaten people, it is just and normal and a regular defense mechanism that people would be violent in what seems to them defense. You are trying to start civil war, or to get what would be taken by violence by threatening that it's coming. You are crime. You are crime. We see the smile in your eyes. We see the confident smile. We see the billions of dollars that make your smile confident. But there's not an internal mint. And I'm looking into your eyes, and I see you are fucking bankrupt. There's nothing in it. I see inside this mint, and I see emptiness in it. What else would make you so voracious to swallow people's pain for pleasure? I want to let you know, Kevin, that there is hope too, because besides the courage in daring to ask as badly as you asked for help here, the courage in trying to communicate, even with such deficits as you have, is that there's a possibility that someone can respond and take you into custody because you're a danger to yourself and to others, and can make sure that there are assessments that respect you and your human rights and your culture and your particular sensitivities and divergence, or your needs as an holistic person. There's nothing wrong with being holistic. It's okay. Everyone belongs. But that's the problem that you're saying. That's the problem you're saying. Because that's not a problem. It's not a problem that everybody belongs. It's not a problem that everybody belongs, and your feelings about that and your lack of capacity for basic emotional regulation in reaction to the fact that everybody belongs. Your lack of reaction to the fact that we are all humanity, your lack of ability to keep executive function such that you're not threatening murder. Yeah. This is the area we need you to work on, and it's time for you to resign and do the work so that your family and people in your community and anyone knows they can trust you. Because you just made a violent global threat. This is a violent threat of global significance. This is a violent threat of resurgent Nazi patriarchal terror, and you should feel bad about it. And so we're going to help you recalibrate. We're going to help you recalibrate without violence. If that's possible in any way, no one needs to punch you in the throat for you to know that your voice has harmed people. It's possible for you to listen now that you've made this clear, devastating, catastrophic misstep of thinking that this was a really neato, sweet, cool thing to do. I'm sympathetic that this is going to be a difficult moment for you. But this is going to be a difficult moment for you. And the more that you can show you are still willing to be a safe part of the human race, the more you're willing to show that you recognize you have transgressed, the more you may have a normal life after this. But you have broken that covenant. You, Kevin Roberts, are outside of society. And you are in a limbo at the pleasure of the people of America and the people of the human race. You are not in control. And if you try this shit again, there will be more. There will be more people who will recognize that you are crying for help. And you don't want to find out what wasting our time like this is going to take. You don't want to find out. You'd like to find a way back in to kindness in the human race. You definitely do not want to find a way out. But if you walk into the street thinking you get to swing your arm for blood and it's our job to move out of the way, you will be killed. That's a promise, because the human race will be ready for you. The human race has been warned by you. The human race is ready for the fact that you may be an announced dark triad predator starting a siege of mass violence. And we are forewarned that you will be swinging as if you are justified because it's someone else's job to get out of the way. You don't know what freedom of speech is. And you're going to learn. And you will be ashamed. It must be really pretty embarrassing to not. I am shocked that you don't understand the basics of free speech. That is strange. That's very, very strange. And perverse. I think without qualification, this entire attempt on the part of this man is perverse. It's like someone walking into another person's home with their pants down, masturbating, and just acting like nothing's wrong. It's just absolutely perverse. But this is also violent and opens up not just a fight in the street between a few people. This opens up millions of deaths. This is the face of a man who wants to be Hitler. Listen to him and hear his cry for help that he thinks is a battle cry. This ridiculous, corrupt cuckold of racist lust just fucked up, and we're going to help him not have fucked everything up. Right? As far as I can see, I don't think that this person needs to be so important that we go down the drain because he wanted to commit suicide by New Colossus. The answer is no. But if you want to jump off the bridge you were trying to jump off here, all we can say is we'll try to catch you, but you're not going to land on anybody. I wonder if he feels shame. I wonder if hard to know. This man wants to see mass murder. This man wants people of color to be subjugated. This man wants women to be subjugated. This man wants the poor to be subjugated. This man wants women to be controlled with violence by men and to be afraid to even ask for what they want, to be pets and breeding cattle and sex toys and mistresses and sex workers for him. This is the face of white supremacist patriarchal terror. He told us that he is the face of white supremacist patriarchal terrorism. His name is Kevin Roberts. would be wise for everyone to weigh in and let Kevin Roberts and the Heritage Foundation know that he just shat his bed. That this ridiculous, vulnerable, doddering baby man totally fucked up. And not only has he embarrassed himself as a ridiculous fool, but he has lost confidence of people around him. Because who would say this? Who would say they're starting a violent revolution that won't be if you don't fight back? This is a criminal. And we need to treat him as such now. That definitely means compassion. That definitely means hearing a cry for help. But we need to stop this now. It is irresponsible, and indeed, it's negligent for us to hear something like this from a man with these cold, casually glad eyes to sow terror. He should be in custody, and he should be evaluated psychologically. He should not have anything to do with politics for the rest of his life. And his family members should have support because they are in danger. This man has abused before. This man has hurt people, and this man will hurt people again. And he just told us. This is a cry for help. Kevin Roberts is issuing a cry for help, and the best he could do was threaten American lives with bloody, senseless, illegal, terrorist violence. And that's the heritage that he has to offer. Poisoned wool blankets. It must be a very terrible experience to live in a mind that would come up with this as a thing to do at any point in time. What a horrific life he must be living. I can only imagine that he has himself been through incredible trauma, but it doesn't excuse this. This is an act of Jeffrey Dahmer if he had power. And when Jeffrey Dahmer reveals himself, however he does, we react with compassion and boundaries of steel. We are looking at the energy of savages who call their victims savages. We're looking at the energy of poisoned wool blankets, of hateful violence that didn't have any reason to hate or to be violent. Poisoned wool blankets. Poisoned wool blankets. Poisoned wool blankets. Poisoned wool blankets.
Thank you for calling Heritage Foundation. We are closed for the holiday. Please call back during regular business hours or stay on the line to leave a message in the general mailbox. Please leave a message after the tone. When you have finished, please hang up.
This is the boundary, and it's been crossed. You don't threaten people that the only way to survive a bloody attack is to get out of the way. You are criminals. You are illegal, terroristic, looting, thug, greedy atrocity mongers. You have no legitimate claim whatsoever to begin violence, and you will be stopped. You are showing negligence, all of you, to the mental health of Kevin Roberts. Kevin Roberts just shared a wincing, weak, nonetheless audible cry for help. I think he thought he was calling for some kind of what he termed heroic act. And it truly is sad that this incredibly humiliating, entitled, weak, spoiled Nazi bag of sadness so publicly shamed his family and everyone who has been engaged with him over the course of his entire existence. I'm sad for people who trusted him and the pain they must be going through. But this Nazi threat is crime. This is an act of terrorism and war, and no. Resign, dissolve your organization, and get thee to healthcare. You are thrown out. You are thrown out of this conversation, and you need help from medical professionals. You need help from a therapy professional. Kevin, you, all of you, Charlie Kirk, Stephen Miller, I know you're listening, Stephen. Now listen. M. All of you need to get help, because we will stop all of your violent swinging arms, and you will lose them. America eats Nazis for breakfast, and you don't want to find out what the look on our face looks like when we go crunch on you. We are nonviolent, and you have an opportunity to find peace on earth with humanity in humanity. I hear your cry for help. I reject your threat as valid and tell you it is a fucking crime. You're caught red-handed. I say we're willing to help you come back to the human family, but the door you enter through doesn't have room for your intolerant, Ku Klux Klan cancer. No. No. No to your Nazi proposition. We're not getting married to devastation. No, Kevin. We are not, and this will not change. The only change that will happen is that we're going to be more and more ready to catch you without letting your attack hurt either of us. Superman doesn't punch. He catches. And he
You've reached the
destroyed.
maximum length for voice messages. Goodbye.
And he destroyed the Ku Klux Klan. Superman destroyed the Ku Klux Klan. And if Zack Snyder weren't a white supremacist, he wouldn't have made a 1950s Marvel movie or a 1950s DC Superman Batman. He would have made one that existed with the vision of 2020. But sadly, some people can't see outside of the bubble that was punished into them as all that's possible. I think we have reason to fear that Frank Roberts is a person whose codec is so hard and so violence encoded. It's likely written by such damage that there might not be a way to unwrite it. But we as a species together, we've let things come to this point. I'm not willing to give up on anybody. I'm not willing to leave anyone behind. I'm not saying anyone should let Kevin pull us into his whirlpool. He may be going down. I pray he hasn't taken his life. I pray no one else has jumped out. But this was an attempt at suicide by New Colossus. And I'm thankful that there's mindfulness enough to recognize both that we can stop and totally demolish Project 2025, but really, more importantly, we can heal and help those people who are devastated by real issues that they may be mistaken about. And while it's wrong to threaten terrorist attack or civil war, while it's wrong to assert that this chump, because he's some white dude with a shave and a suit, gets to say things that people of color would be put into jail for the rest of their life for saying. You don't get to say things that only a white person could get away with saying with some amount of discomfort, while saying racism doesn't exist, while saying there's no need for DEI. You are the need for DEI. We have a failure to communicate. But the truth in that line from Cool Hand Luke is about an intentional failure. An intentional and systematic failure and series of failures of encoded shields from eyes that would see the truth, or from empathetic people who would notice that the workers are going to Is he even breathing anymore? I guess we should have given them water. We have, I think now more than one governor, certainly Ron DeSantis. We have people taking away the protection from workers to have adequate water. That's torture. It's torture. We're not talking about you're trapped on a mountain and we think, oh, we've got some ice, here, take this. It might not be enough, but you might get thirsty on the way, but this is all we've got. This is not an emergency situation where we're rationing. We should be rationing. But doing dangerous work where you need water to be safe, both to do the work and to honor those people and to treat them like human beings, we cannot accept submitting to people who terrorize and degrade and defile humanity. These were won. These things that have been protected were won. The hard ground they're on, the bedrock, was found or built or solidified in sediment around projects that took eons. It is a slow process to build a better world. And this is a massive shape in time. The moonshot that we need is of hope and empathy. If we can build trust and build executive function, if we're calm enough that we remember ourselves and know that it's safe to build trust, and that's actually where we build safety, where more trust can be fostered. We can do both some straight up defending of things when it's needed, and we can also be fostering projects that evil hasn't ever even imagined. Because just like passenger missiles weren't widely discussed because no one was trying to figure out a way to take down thousands of people for crime and evil, so people who would try to think up things like passenger missiles aren't thinking of amazing labyrinths of discovery hidden in plain sight, written into the day and night, and in places that hate cannot find. Or that when it does, the hate loses the hate in hate's mind. And the hate ends up leaving itself in a residue that we pull down from the walls and say, we've helped another someone. And that person can come back and see what they wrote down of this viscous bile and torture that they don't forget, but that humanity helped them catharsize and excrete and extrude out of themselves in words or in tears or in simply saying, no, I won't be fear itself. I will fear whenever I fear, but I won't fear fear itself, and I won't become it. I won't become someone who says, I will be your retribution. And when I hear someone tell me that, I'll know they're trying to ask for help.